I'm just sitting here watching Eyewitness News Channel 7. And it's interesting because I'm watching, and the name of a past client of mine, a real estate client, came on in the bottom of the screen. The Eyewitness News report says Patrick McManus. Now, again, in Ireland or Irish things, I don't know if McManus is like a popular, like Smith. Smith was very popular, so I heard, when the yellow books were popular and you could see all your relatives in the same name when the phone book was published. But he had a house in a place on Long Island called Mastic. One of the only houses and address, by the way, that I actually remember off the top of my head that I can recall was 69 Dogwood Lane. I don't know why. It was significant. I believe that to be him. It might not be. It's hard to tell when you meet somebody only once or twice, and then years go by. For Eyewitness, like, for sure. But there was a 1978 lead-based paint disclosure signed. There were attorneys involved because I represented the seller in the transaction. I don't remember when I took the listing. I don't remember if a sale ever completed, because in the area I was having trouble with leads and buyers wanting to see the house, which I couldn't figure out why at the time. But I see him tonight on the television, which I think is interesting. But again, the real estate business, I mean, there's not like real camaraderie. Like, it's not like a repeatable. I mean, I know some people are, but that's because they receive their leads from these networks that they're part of. I was like I don't know, people just found my name. I don't know how. Let's just go with that at the moment. And at one point, Jason stopped paying child support, but I couldn't, like, I mean, it was like he was trying to bankrupt me, purposely, just to take the children. I don't know why. And so, at least that's what it felt like. So, I was struggling to pay the monthly bills, and he was, at that point, he was really, really nasty. He wasn't in physical proximity, but I had to go through Tom Campagna again and pay an exorbitant amount of money just to retrieve the back owed child support. But they asked for like all these really weird records. Like, they wanted every sale and every listing that I had listed or sold. They wanted a copy of it all on file for the child support. I'm like, thought it weird, but of course the lawyer asked for it, who was representing me no less, in blind faith and trust in some local whatever. I mean, so they had the business and the names of whatever, and they required it in for some reason during that process. I still don't know what that was about because I didn't have to go to court for anything. Tom was my representative and he went. But it's just interesting to see a face from someone, since there's so few And I don't recognize his face. That's not what made me go, oh my gosh, it's Pat. No, it was, oh my god, it's Patrick McManus. Like, that name stuck with me. And then the shitbag Teofrio 1975 had a girlfriend who he always said how beautiful she was. And her last name was McManus, but her first name was Missy. In non-essential equipment details.
G7 and Ridgewood Savings Bank thank you for helping protect our children. Protesters gathered outside the Manhattan DA's office over the city's bail reform measures. The demonstrators say DA Alvin Bragg has directly caused a spike in crime. They also say President Biden took the wrong approach during his visit to the city yesterday when he focused on a flood of guns flowing into the city.
Now, I just want to make this really clear at statesman and federal level I'm inside of the city limits of some sort. I'm in Queens. I'm in a fallout shelter, let's put it that way. The people behind Pat, these people over here, they're voicing their upset with the seated President of the United States, Joe Biden. President Joe Biden. Just so we're clear. Because there's other actions that are filed, motions and so on and so forth taken, that disrupt the flow of justice and leave almost like a door of opportunity for more dangerous crime to accumulate and find its way in, which I think is the greater existential risk and what's going on at the moment. But it's these little pieces of, we have to get along because we're in a city, and to turn on one another would be incredibly dangerous. But being preyed upon and being surrounded by, all of a sudden, this population as the unsuspecting whatever, how do we get protected and where do we go for help and a voice? When I don't want to speak badly of my president or of my government ever, I want to support them in every effort I can. But when there's people flooding the lands with we don't know why, and in some mass entrance because they're exiting somewhere, on whose authority I don't know, and then told that like there's some system that gives them for some reason some protection that we don't get, that's really scary. It shouldn't, I mean, like,
the iron pipeline is never going to get shut down as long as there are no consequences for carrying illegal handguns in New York City.
We have to start supporting our police departments. We have to stop claiming that everything is based on identity politics. We're reaching out.
The protesters also cited bail reform as a root cause of the current spike in crime. However, critics of the proliferation of guns point to access to weapons like the high bullet capacity gun that killed 2 officers in Harlem as a major problem.
Legendary police whistleblower Frank Serpico is finally being publicly honored by the NY.
Now, I don't know anything about this gentleman either. But it is just a frightening world.
NYPD. Serpico tweeted a picture of the Medal of Honor he was awarded.
So he received a Medal of Honor and a certificate at some point, and at some point they said that they shot him in the face for doing the Good Samaritan thing, but also the requirement for one's own status within the upper leagues of, I mean, like, how do you support from the bottom and from the top when now all of a sudden there's this cross thatch of differential that people are dedicating their lives to either ripping through or ripping apart and breaking the system in a way, in a non-integritous way. I mean, there's a show on television, not breaking eyewitness news, but there was, I guess they call it a fictional show with fictional characters. One was called The Jeffersons, which was a non-familial shorter man who had moved into a penthouse situation in New York City. And it was moving on up to the east side. Finally got a piece of the pie. I mean, that's its claim to fame on this television show during my life frame. It was within the rabbit ears stations when I was growing up. So, non-familial Jefferson, and that was the theme song to this piece of pop culture and urban whatever. Then there was a TV show called The Brady Bunch, which was a mother and a father, both somewhere in a familial category to my whatever person. And there were 3 boys and there were 3 girls. And the families somehow were broken apart. I don't know the backstory on it. But all I remember as a child is mother had 3, father had 3. Now all of a sudden they became 6. And they were a happy family and they had some happy sitcom. It was like the Beaver, Leave It to Beaver. Leave It to Beaver was the generation before. And then all of a sudden family values took a tumble to, no, now there's a dad and a mom and we got different stuff, but we're still one big happy family. And those were the adult tell-all series that went on in the television while I was wasting time in public school waiting for the correct mail to come back for me, since I know I was claimed at some point, but it's kind of like, how long do I have to wait? There's been a couple of things that's happened along the way. You might need to know about them, but I don't know how to get a message back to you. And I don't know where you got off to.
And its certificate, along with his thanks to Mayor Adams, who vowed to make sure that he was recognized. The 85-year-old Brooklyn native was originally given a medal back in 1972, but without any fanfare. And many in the police department were angry for his part in exposing corruption. He was also shot in the face months ahead of his testimony before the Knapp Commission that helped bring oversight to the NYPD. A rash of fire.
I've never even heard of Knapp. I don't know, is it just NAP or is it KNAP? Again, I'm not at that level. I'm a couch potato. I'm at a 0 class at this point, waiting.
Fires set on subways coming up on.
Now this is scary. I mean, this is something new that they just started covering on the news. That some people are setting subway car fires. That's SUBWAYCARFIRES. I mean, I know, oh my gosh, that there's a way to message stuff. It's just like, oh my goodness. Star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361. It's Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxy is broken, and it's Bayside Station.